Thank you to everyone for viewing this video tonight. I'm Philip Murphy. I'm standing as a candidate in the Tarwin Valley Ward, the South Gippsland Shire election in October 2016. Our motto for this election campaign is to release the handbrake. We have to get our shire and our region going. Economically, socially and culturally, we don't have a future here in South Gippsland unless we really get things happening. We start making some business decisions and we stop our people from being hamstrung by red tape. Tarwin Valley Ward, it's the ward that encompasses Leongatha and Mubu North, Dunbalk, Fish Creek, plus the surrounding farmland. I've got a very good knowledge of the geography of the area and a very good understanding of what is involved, not only in Tarwin Valley Ward, but if I'm elected as a councillor in South Gippsland, I represent the whole shire. And I grew up in Welshpool, in the southern part of the shire, and I have a very good understanding of the region. People might remember me from the 2008 election, where I commanded just under 1,000 first preference votes, plus a further 1,600 second preference votes behind a very popular and well-known councillor in that election. So even though I never won then, I actually polled very well. If we repeat that performance this time around in 2016, with a lot more candidates in the field, I stand a pretty good chance of winning if I can score those many votes. One of the reasons that I'm standing in this election is there are some great candidates across all the wards that are business people, business orientated, and we need to get some new blood across the board and actually start making strong business decisions and helping out our prosperity and making the place in an enterprising shire. I have a background working as a property valuer. A little bit about my background. I grew up as a child down on a dairy farm at Welshpool. A trip to Leongatha in those days was like a day out in the big smoke. I was determined to do something good with my life, and I was able to gain a real estate degree from RMIT. I worked as a property consultant to various councils over a 15-year period. Then I returned to South Gippsland and have farmed successfully at Mardan as a full-time beef farmer over the past 10 years. I bought some farms in the district in 2007 and I love the lifestyle. I love the scenery, green fields for 8 months of the year, and fat cattle. I love getting my cattle fat and then being able to sell them off. I was previously a council officer and a contractor at one of Australia's fastest growing municipalities. In fact, it was the early 1990s, the third fastest growing shire in Australia. It was a hectic workplace and there was much to be done. The council made fast decisions and I got trained to be decisive and thoughtful. We prided ourselves on being public servants. That's what I want to convey to the people working at the shire. So what are my key initiatives if I do get elected onto the South Gippsland Shire? One thing that I'd love to see happen is an economic development task force created. I want to see the manager of economic development, I want to see his role or her role upgraded so that they basically become the second most important council officer in our shire behind the chief executive. I've seen firsthand how this approach works well at other councils that I've had some involvement with in the past. If we develop a culture of excitement and vibrancy, our politicians will stop taking us for granted. We need the help of our politicians. We need our economic development task force fronting Spring Street, Melbourne, and even federal politicians in Canberra. If we have to beg, then we beg. But we have been forgotten and downtrodden in South Gippsland for too long. A good economic development manager is responsible for the blue sky thinking. I want to see our Shire thinking big and standing tall. Some blue sky ideas for our Shire. Our beef industry. It's based around the VLE selling facility at Leongatha near Coonwarra. We have a great cattle selling facility at Coonwarra. Meat companies love the quality of our prime cattle. But why are so many of our fat cattle allowed to leave the Shire every Wednesday to be processed elsewhere? We should be encouraging a large-scale meat processor to establish an abattoir in South Gippsland Shire. To my mind, the land surrounding the VLE should be a logical inclusion for commercial or industrial zoning. You have windmill ag next to the VLE, add to it. Leongatha VLE should be Eastern Victoria's premier livestock facility, and it can be if we have an economic development task force promoting the facility. The South Gippsland Highway, it's currently 2 lanes. We must start lobbying the government to get 4 lanes from Lang Lang to Leongatha. And I'm under no illusions, it's going to take a generation or more for this to actually happen. But if we don't start now, it won't happen in the next 70 or 80 years. I want to see it happen in my lifetime, that we get a 4-lane road to Leongatha. We are getting left behind if we don't have that. A really quick and easy improvement to our Shire can be done. If I get elected in October, I'll be lobbying very hard within council to get this to happen before Christmas. A very quick fix to our Shire is that we paint every street car parking space that the council owns in our major towns of Leongatha, Currumbara, Foster. Ultimately, every car parking bay in the Shire should be painted, but our towns are looking sad and drab. This is a quick way of giving our Shire a makeover by Christmas. One simple fix will encourage our shop owners and our shopkeepers to actually paint their shops. Enthusiasm is infectious. Let's encourage it. Council rates. I wanted to have a talk about our council revenue. I did a Google search and I came up with an article that was written in The Age back in July 2002 that reveals South Gippsland rates for 2002-03 were set to rise by 18%. So you had a massive increase 14 years ago in your rates, and it's been going up ever since. When I stood for council in 2008, back then the total revenue of the council was $42 million, or thereabouts in round numbers. Around about half of that is council rates and the rest of it is government grants and other revenue that the council collects. So 2008, total revenue $42 million. In 2015, 8 years later, they've increased the total revenue from 42 million up to 66 million. So over that 8-year period, our Shire has collected over $400 million in revenue. And what have we got to show for it? We don't have a new council office. They're actually been setting aside money to build a new council office in the future. They haven't sealed any of our roads. Like in the whole 20 years since council amalgamations, there's never been any new bitumen laid on any of our rural roads throughout the Shire. So what's happening with all our money? And I'm not opposed to our council building a new Shire office, if that's what the community actually wants. I've observed our council working out of multiple buildings in Leongatha, and it makes sense to have one large, all-encompassing office that the council staff can function from more efficiently than they do currently. I do question, however, why a new office would apparently cost around $32 million. I mean, $32 million I would have thought would buy us a multiple-storey office building. One really silly decision that I saw this council make a few years back was to buy part of the old basketball stadium as offices. Why would a large institution like our South Gippsland Shire buy a strata title half of a building? It doesn't make much sense from a valuation perspective. I wanted to talk about train services. People have been lobbying me, asking me about bringing the train back to Leongatha. Back in 1999, Steve Bracks, the former Labor leader, at one of the state elections, made a commitment to South Gippsland that he'd bring back the train, and then the Labor government didn't end up doing it, and it's been a simmering issue throughout the Shire ever since. What I've said to the people that are lobbying for the train service is that if they want to get me on board, then they need to get the big users of freight like Murray Goulburn and the meat industry, Barrow Foods. They've got to get those people on board. Otherwise, I think that whatever money we can get out of government needs to be put towards the South Gippsland Highway. Another reason why we need to have an economic development task force. Some years back I lived in the Cardinia Shire, and Cardinia, they made their economic development manager report directly to the CEO. I've had first-hand experience in helping with the lobbying process to get the Pakenham bypass built. It took 3 or 4 federal elections of being a political football before the government funding was obtained. I volunteered to be on a community committee that oversaw the building of that road. It was frustrating for me personally that road safety wasn't the paramount issue. I really do understand how difficult it is to get government to fund a $242 million project. Another issue that I took up down in the Cardinia area was that I lobbied for the Kirirup bypass to be built. I was ahead of my time on that issue. Once again, it took 3 or 4 elections. Traffic banking up, we used to go down there on an Easter Monday and see the traffic bank back for miles on the Kirirup bypass, but I'm proud that it's finally been built and my small part in achieving it. But you need a strong economic development department for these type of projects to actually happen. A final summary of what this election is about. Council rates. I will oppose the council rates going up like they have been. I want to see our council budgets built from the ground up. I want to see our money spent wisely. And I want to see transparency. Economic development is the absolute cornerstone of getting our Shire vibrant. We need some blue sky thinking, meaning that we need to start thinking big. And most important, we need to change. If we just have more of the same, we keep electing the same old, then things aren't really going to change. And I am concerned that our rates and taxes will continue to rise. And one thing that I haven't touched on if we don't change the way that we're going and we don't make our shire more functional, look 10, 15, 20 years ahead. We've already had one big round of council amalgamations in 1994. If it happens again in another 10 or 15 years' time, we cease being local government, we become regional government, and we more than likely get merged, amalgamated with either Bass Coast or Bor or both. And we don't want to be the junior partner in that sort of an arrangement. I want to thank people for watching the video, and I hope that you'll vote for me, and I hope you'll be able to tell other people to do the same. There's not much time now before the election happens. Written and authorised by Philip Murphy of 155 Nichols Road, Mardane, Victoria 3953.